It's almost comforting. Martinez is consistent as a Hallmark Christmas movie in plot.
Welcome to A More Philly Union, the podcast where we swear to talk about the Philly Union, the whole Philly Union, and nothing but the Philly Union with as few digressions as possible. I'm one of your hosts, Eric.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul.
And welcome to another episode of A More Philly Union. If it sounds like Paul's coming through louder and clear, he's got a brand new mic.
Yay!
So, we are moving up constantly with improvements for the podcast. Also, we are currently we're recording live during the Champions League match, the second one between Philly Union and Alianza. I don't know if you want to talk scores yet.
Why don't we jump into it after we get through we can recap the first one and then see where we're at this month.
Yeah. Although as a time check, we're at about the 75th, 76th minute. So we'll maybe be more of a game recap than a live coverage, but let's see what happens.
That's fine.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it. We had a game last Saturday. I don't know if you guys heard. So the Union hosted Chicago.
Yes, there definitely were 22 people running around on the field.
Yes,
at least for some of the game.
For some of the game, there was a 22 whole people out there.
Well, if you count the refs, there was a few extra.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So it was
another balmy day in Philadelphia. You got to question the wisdom of MLS to schedule these early season games in cold weather situations. I mean, it wasn't as bad as Minnesota, which literally they had to heat the field to keep the snow from piling up. But, it's even colder tonight. I feel bad for the people down there at the stadium tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they said it was 32 real feel on the field. So you could tell. Usually those guys don't bother with the extra layers, but certainly did on Saturday.
He never puts on another layer.
No. No, but
he's the Iker Casillas of the Philadelphia Union.
Yeah. Ali was bundled. That's all I know. So
just at the top, it was, when we started the game up, it was kind of nice to be reminded, somebody like me who has a pretty poor memory. It's like, oh, that's right. Shabilko and Herbers is on that team. It's like, so it was nice to see Shabilko with his freshly bleached hair, or I don't know how fresh it was, but it was a nice blonder look for him. And then also note for Chicago's goalkeeper, it was a 19-year-old player, Brady. So this is his first game. I think there was
I don't know if it was his first game, but Chicago just made a big splash in the offseason because they sold, and I'm going to forget his name now, their keeper from last year. They sold him to Chelsea for some ungodly amount of money.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, he was a I don't remember if he was a U.S. youth prospect. Really good goalkeeper. And in all fairness to him, really good goalkeeper. I want to say it was either a $6 or $10 million. I'm not even bothering to look it up right now, but it was a huge transfer fee for a really young goalkeeper to Chelsea.
Nice.
And they're rebuilding their keeper core.
Nice. Well, let's jump into the game. I know the game seemed to start off a little. Well, I should say it really started off with a lot of spirit where Ali fouled like within, I think, 18 seconds.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
So setting the kind of the precedent or setting the tempo, so to speak, for the game.
Very welcome to Philly moment.
Yeah, welcome to Philly. But I thought the beginning of the game started off, kind of fairly level, but I think Chicago definitely
they wanted to muck it up a bunch.
Yeah, they didn't mind if it got to be an ugly game, and I think they, as I like to say, the camera was on Philly's side of the field a little bit more than I like to see it, and I thought Chicago put on a good amount of pressure. The first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the game. I can see Paul with the score update.
We're currently in the 81st minute, and there's another goal in the Alianza game. We'll talk about it in a bit.
Wow. All right. Yeah, but
even before the game, the foul there, the starting lineup surprised me. Like I honestly thought that Curtin was going to be a little more hold off more of his, like we were talking about last week, and we don't have a better name for it, but the A team for the Alianza game, just to put it away. But he rolled out their top squad against Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, it turned out to be that's what he needed to do because, like you were saying, Chicago was definitely not looking to let the Union play the ball. They wanted to get into it as often as they could. A lot of fouls in that game. Surprisingly, a lot from Herbers and Shabilko getting into it against their old teammates.
Yeah, there was.
We were going for Shabilko for sure. I thought that Philly was. I mean, they just absolutely
like keeping them marked and all that.
Yeah, and taking them down and whatever needed to be done.
You mean Elliott and Glesnes were all over him?
Well, there was that one good collision between Glesnes and Shabilko where he rang. God. I think that was in the second half, and he rang his bell. And I mean, nobody likes to see that, but especially a former, very lovable Union player.
Well, heads snapping back like that are never ever good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Chrissy just said, his head really did snap back when he went into Glesnes. And I don't think it was anything, there was nothing vicious about it. It's just
no.
Shabilko didn't know Glesnes was there. He turned to follow the ball, and Glesnes was right there. And he ran into the big Scandinavian.
It was two big dudes going for the ball, and that's when an irresistible force hits an immovable object kind of thing. First half too. Plenty of shots on goal, but in particular, I know Blake had a couple. A little bit of work to do in net, and there was that one kind of arcing, lobbing kind of across, and he kind of bobbled it out, and then they had to clear it. But I noticed he was it looked like he has suffered an injury a little bit. And then I guess there was
talking about the one where he kind of threw his foot out there to try to half clear the ball. That one, at the 17th minute. Yeah, that was where he really looked like. After that, he kind of got up, and he didn't look quite right after that. You're right.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he hurt himself.
Yeah, you're right, because seemed like it was the first one that kind of started it, and then it was some point towards the 2/3 of the way through the first half. Yeah, there was that. It wasn't even that hard of a shot, but he dove to his left, and safely was able to deflect the ball, but you could see like he kind of was basically holding the inside of his right thigh.
I mean, I was around, like you said, about the 30th minute or so. He dove to his left, and when you could see him starting to rub his thigh, and he got up. I mean, the man was going to try to make any save he could make, but it was pretty clear that he was hobbling at that point, and it wasn't long after that they had to pull him, which was a shock and a bit of a scare for us fans.
Yeah. Should talk about do you want to talk about the Blake injury?
I mean, you're gonna edit this out, right?
Well, I mean, so look, right, because then Blake gets subbed out, Joe Bendick comes in, seasoned kind of veteran,
right?
But
which Apple TV, the commentators who were fine, but they kind of treated it like he was completely new to the game, and didn't give him any credit at all. But anyway, I guess when you're comparing people to Blake, I guess it's tempting to make that contrast of, oh, wow, they lost their brick wall and that kind of thing. But anyway, so there is good-ish news about Blake. They're calling it a grade 1 adductor strain, which basically means that there is no muscle tear, which is good. They're saying that if all goes well, they do expect him to be out for about 4 weeks. But it's early in the season, so rather have it happen now than later.
True.
And rather have that than a tear, because that's a much longer recovery time. So that's the story right now.
if they are saying it's 4 weeks, that actually would go right through one of the international windows, which means he's going to have a fewer games on his legs over the course of the season because he won't be going to play for Jamaica, which is a shame for him from a professional standpoint. Like, I know he loves playing for his country, but at least it's that much less wear and tear on his body this year.
Yeah. Do you think Jamaica would call him up if he's?
Oh, absolutely. He's their starter.
Wow. Oh.
Yeah, he is. So.
Wow. All right. I thought there was a lot of good passing by the Union. They kept the ball moving using the wings. Or definitely had some chances. A couple times offside.
Can we settle, for my sake, this is completely for me, how to say that man's name, because the commentators were saying "ooh-ah."
Oh,
I've also heard "ooh-way." It sounds like just his name should just be a U with an umlaut, and that's it. So how do we say his name?
well, let's go around the table. How do you say it?
I almost want to abstain because I have no idea, but
I thought it was Ura.
Ura. I mean,
I always read it in my head as "ooray," but I know that's not right because I've never heard anybody else say that. So
yeah, when they first picked him up, there were a couple of podcasts that I listened to that tried to pronounce his name, and it seemed like each of them had slightly different pronunciations.
Yeah.
So, whenever you guys get down to one of the stadium games, and I think I've got the next game against Orlando at home. We'll have to try to get a recording of it just so we can confirm how he wants it to be pronounced.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure it's Ura.
I never expected to have more problems with this name than with Aristeguieta.
Or Shabilko.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, 4 letters, and it's how do you pronounce this?
Well, that's one of my people. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, but yeah, I mean, Chicago did a good job mucking up the game. We got a little lucky on that offside goal with that Kamara, I think was rightly called offside, but it wasn't by much.
Yeah.
That guy, as long as he's been playing, he's always dangerous, and you're always got to keep an eye on him. And the fact that Mbaizo didn't step with Glesnes and Elliott almost cost us that they almost took an early lead, or at least a first half lead. He's always dangerous, but we got lucky, but they got the yellow cards. We should probably talk about that a bit.
Well, really quickly, not to focus outside the Union too much or add to this, but Kai Kamara, he just remarkable how consistently, as you said, Paul, dangerous he is. Just Eric referred to him while we were watching a game as a hired gun. I mean, he just absolutely, you have to keep an eye on him always, and he just doesn't seem to lose quality, and it's kind of remarkable to me. Just a little tip of the hat.
There's a old, a long time story about like forwards. It's like, forwards only have to be on for 1 minute out of the 90 minutes, and they can, rule the world. And that's exactly what Kamara is. Like, it does not take much at all for him to impact the game.
And I think he's one of the oldest guys in the league now.
That's the thing. Season to season, he doesn't seem to fade, which is interesting to see. But anyway,
no, I've always liked Kai Kamara. It's kind of funny how he kind of bounces around the league. He finds a home for a year or two, and then goes somewhere else. And it's kind of, I'm not sure if he would be a good fit with the Union, but just the way he plays and his attitude, he would be a good fit. But strategically and all that, that's definitely up for.
I believe you were going to talk about the cards.
But he did get a yellow card in this one, and that I don't know exactly what he said or what, but I'm trying to remember.
Dissent was the term. Dissent, which I think probably encompasses worlds of possibilities.
Was that when Shabilko and Glesnes came together? Was that
yes?
Scrum? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. It was kind of hard to tell what's going on because there are all these people, and Shabilko's on the ground, and and then all of a sudden I just see like this card come out. It's like, wait, for what? And Kamara got a yellow card for dissent. Yeah, and then the yellow cards just kept coming. Martinez got his obligatory yellow card in the extra time of the first half because he and Herbers were squaring off with each other, kind of
That was like a hockey fight where neither of them wanted to drop the gloves, and they
exactly.
were like they were just. I mean, like how much head-to-head contact can you have? They look like rams butting horns, but not enough to actually knock each other out.
It's like in the parking lot, like, come on, let's do it, bro. Yeah, let's do it, bro. Like, but no one's gonna throw the first one. So, yeah, they both got yellow cards.
It's almost comforting. Martinez is as consistent as a Hallmark Christmas movie in plot. Getting those yellow cards, it's a warm blanket of MLS.
Yeah. But yeah, so let's get to the second half. It was kind of the game was going back and forth. I felt like the Union kind of was dictating the tempo of the game,
and then stupidity strikes.
Yeah, that bad tackle by Herbers.
He was late. He was studs up. He was. I mean, that was one time that the Apple announcers actually got it right. That could have been a straight red just for that. I mean, It wasn't vicious because he did have a bent knee and he wasn't right through a standing leg. But yeah, they were right. That could have been a red card on its own.
Yeah, it was just kind of a reckless, careless tackle. German against German, taking out Wagner. So that definitely changed the flow of the game a little bit. But as I like to say, one of two things happens when a team loses a player on a red card. They either start playing worse or they start playing better.
And Chicago went and played better.
They at some points watching the game, it's kind of like, oh, that's right. They're supposed to be down a man, and they were
when you pack 10 guys in behind the ball the way they did.
Yeah,
and credit to them for doing it. It's hard to score.
Yeah, I thought they really did a good job of keeping the Union from getting that extra man momentum going at all.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk online about the Union not necessarily doing well when a team goes down a man. It's not something I can say that I have necessarily clocked. I don't know how you two feel. This is just broadly speaking, not particularly about this game, but it could have just been just something to say.
The Union definitely, their game plan, and pardon me if I get slightly technical, but they are about a transition play. So they want to have the ball. They want the other team to be pushing the ball up the field, turn it over at some point around the mid circle, and then spring a fast counterattack. So when teams are down a man, they're not playing to score goals most of the time. They're comfortable sitting back in their own end. So even if the Union get a turnover, they can't spring a quick counterattack into open space because there is no open space.
I agree. There's a psychology that comes with playing, on the side that's up a man, right? You have this confidence now, like, hey, we're up a man, we're going to be able to score. And I'm not saying the Union did this, but one of the kind of thoughts that starts creeping into your mind is, hey, now we got time. We can pass the ball around until we can get that opening and get that goal. But as Paul said, the Union play a quick transition thing, and that doesn't work. Like slowing the game down to kind of keep circling to find that opening. I mean, good soccer players can always, transition from one style to the next. But when you're kind of training as a, you have a team strategy of this quick turnaround and like the quick counterattack. When you're up a man, maybe it's not the most effective, Well,
what's that saying? Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yeah, that exactly.
Was what we saw a lot of the Union. Like the Union did it in the first game against Columbus, but they were able to score. They tried to do it against Miami, but they couldn't make that pretty pass. Yeah. And rather than just take the shot from 18, 20 yards out, they kept trying to thread it through a defender or one too many touches. Yeah. And we saw that a lot in the second half of the Chicago game, at least until Torres came on.
Yes, exactly.
Was Torres subbed in? Now I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to remember if he started the game or not.
So in the 61st minute, that's when the Union subbed out both Flach and Ora. to practice your German pronunciations. Those are two names good to have, Flach and Ora. And then McGlynn came in for Flach, and Torres came in for Ora.
Took out a couple of Germans and put in some others.
Yeah.
Or actually not Germans, but
No.
But Torres, just like the last time we saw, I mean, immediately, like he creates these plays like literally in seconds. He's out in the field. He's already like charging them with the ball.
if he doesn't win the Ilsinho Sub of the Year award, I'd be surprised. That's an award that the MLS Extra Time podcast likes to hand out ever since Ilsinho just demonstrated how dangerous quality subs can be for the, as he did for the Union when he, what was that one game where he single-handedly beat Red Bull, scored like 2 or 3 goals in the second half as a sub. Torres, like you said, he just kind of fires everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would say that there's like Gazdag is still trying to figure out how to play with Torres on the field. Bedoya is still trying to play. Like they're still adapting to what he can do, where the overlap runs have to be, and where the midfield or the center players need to move to make most space for Torres. But he's always fun to get on the ball.
I had a thought about Torres, and I was just curious for you guys if you thought there was anything to this that besides the fact that he's obviously extremely skilled. I don't want to take anything away from that. Do you think there's any advantage to his size? I mean, no disrespect at all when I say this, but he is a gentleman of smaller stature compared to what I think of as the average, whatever that is, soccer player who tends to be somewhere roughly 5'10" to 6 foot. Maybe 6 foot might be pushing it, with outliers on either side. But I just wonder if there's sort of a psychological overlook there that people maybe
the little man effect.
Maybe. I mean, I hate to say that, like, just if the other players maybe overlook him, literally or figuratively, again, not in no way am I making a cut here.
It makes me think of that first time he came on the field for the Union in the crew game. His first touch he takes into what had to be a 6'6" defender, and he just beat him. I mean, he shields the ball so well, and like you said, despite the fact that he gave up like almost a foot on the guy, it didn't stop him from taking him on. I think you're right. I think the smaller stature players like Messi and others, they really they have to be able to play with the ball. They have to be able to control it even against those bigger players. I think you're right.
I think too, soccer is one of those sports where, of course, depending on the position, right? Defenders tend to be bigger, goalkeepers, tall, long arms, stuff like that. So there are some physical attributes that serve better in certain roles, but it's almost as you get in that saddle of the midfield, depending on even if you're attacking midfield, the stature of the player doesn't matter as much, but like those shorter players, like a better word, I don't know, they can turn faster, they can move faster, and so in some respect the height doesn't matter in some respects. Right? I mean, Paul, you mentioned Messi, right? I mean, he's not the tallest guy, but
he has medical reasons for why he is the size he is. He had a medical issue when he was young. But I also would point out that Torres's first real good chance on goal was a header. It was a cross play, right, and it was a header that he picked up between two defenders, and he steered it towards net. He ended up being about a yard outside of the net, but his first opportunity was with his head. But I was just grateful to see somebody shooting. Chicago, the Union forwards were doing a great job running at the Chicago defenders, and the defenders were falling back, and there was space there. And for the first 30 minutes or so that Torres was on the field, it looked like they kept looking for passes, and finally, I don't remember exactly if it was like the 80th minute or something like that. Torres finally took a shot from outside the goal, and it was like, great. Let's get that through. And then, the 90th minute comes up and Torres takes another shot from outside. He gets a fortunate misplay by Brady. And the place erupts.
And
That was awesome.
And I think too, Chicago, made the mistake. Like the defenders were, well, I mean, understandably they're playing down a man, so they don't want to commit to trying to get the ball off of a Union player. But they gave them that room. They didn't come right out and try to get the ball off them. So you can always see, like, with every step, Torres is thinking, like, wait, are you going to come for the ball, or and I need to pass, or, oh no, I have an extra step. Okay, I'm going to take the extra step. Oh, you're going to get the ball. Oh no, you're not. Okay, I'm going to take another step. And he just kind of, like, with every step, he found himself getting closer and closer to the midfield. He's like, all right, I'm going to take the shot. And yeah, I mean, it took that. It was a good shot. It did bounce off the ground, which is a harder one to try to save. So I don't want to, Brady did what he could, but that was, those low traveling, bouncing shots are often more difficult to stop. So
yeah, and then the Union just had to see out the rest of stoppage time. But there was still a little bit of excitement left in stoppage time. The Union are up a goal. The Chicago's suddenly realize they need to throw things forward. People start getting, banging bodies, and then Kamara does something stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys see that? I mean, did you watch the replay?
Yeah, it was when he knocked down Carranza. It was, they kind of went for the ball, and Carranza, I think it was, I don't know if he got hit in the head or near the head, but it was a hard one. And immediately you saw Kamara kind of go over to Carranza on the ground, like, hey, are you okay? I'm sorry. And then, the team started grouping a little bit and, getting a little hot under the collar.
It seems like it was much clearer on the field. I don't think the commentators ever even really got the full story.
Yeah.
But Bendick was out of the box.
Yeah, Bendick came out
right away. So something clearly happened that I couldn't catch. And it doesn't seem like others could either.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have that.
It looked like a hard hit, and I just, from Kamara's body language, I think he realized that was a hard hit. Now he may have a different opinion about when I should have gotten a card, but
right.
Yeah, and actually, after he was sent off, or while he was walking off the field, you could start hearing the crowd chanting, using the Seven Nation Army, and borrowing it from when we played Columbus. They started chanting, "Go back to Chicago."
Right.
So I think we're going to get a lot of mileage out of that one.
Just so long as we can find a 3-syllable word for the opponent.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, a win is a win.
Yep.
Chicago did what they could to make it ugly, but once again, the Union can street fight or they can play soccer, and this time they had to do a bit of both.
10 yellow cards in the game.
Yeah.
19 fouls for the Union and 10 fouls for the Chicago.
Yeah.
Crazy. 2 red cards.
And one of the things I noticed too about this game, I mean, we're only three league games in, but this is the first time, at least MLS games, that the Union had the majority possession.
Yes.
Again,
it helps being a man up for 40 minutes.
Absolutely. But I think that actually dovetails what you were saying, Paul, about how, you're playing a quick transition game, right? You're by default, or when you play that style, the other team's going to probably have more control over the ball, but when you get it, you do something really quick with it.
Right.
But shots on goal 4-1.
Now it looks like they're trying to ride the little bit of momentum they had at the end of the Chicago game into the Alianza game, and we've delayed long enough, and this is a final. It's 4-0. The Union won.
Dang. Nice.
Another fortunate red card, not fortunate, but a red card in the first half puts Alianza away and down a player, and the Union take a lead in stoppage time of first half, which is going to force Alianza to have to play more open in the second. And the Union just, I guess, punished them. I wish I could have watched it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which it's just kind of funny because we're sitting there going like, or at least I'm going on about like, well, when you play that transition style and you're up a man, you're not going to really necessarily start, racking up the goals because, you're going to be playing that like confidence, like we'll find a way in, just give it time. And then they go up,
cut to the game
smash
concurrently.
Smash it. It's 4-0. Okay. Let me get a slice of this this humble pie from the Philadelphia Union.
To be fair, there's a difference when you're playing a man up and it's tied versus a man up and you've got the lead. So the other team has to come out and beat you.
That is
Right?
true.
At that point, Alianza had to score a goal. If they had scored and it was 1-1, they would have advanced because of the away goals.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
And sometimes when you're far forward, when you're trying your hardest to swing at somebody, that's when you're most vulnerable. And yeah, I mean, the Union got a corner kick goal. Damian Lowe scored the first one at the end of the first half. Gazdag got a penalty kick on a handball in the box. And then Pereira got 2. I would love to see those goals.
Wow. And those were in the run of play, right?
Yeah, well, at least as far as it's described in the feed.
Okay. So with this win, then the Union, right, we're in the round of 16. So now this gets us into the quarterfinals, right? And then the Union will face off against the winner from the Atlas Olympia game, which is going to be played. Actually, it should be starting nowish. I don't know if we're going to be able to watch it, depending on where it's being broadcast.
Looks like the notes that say that it was 4-1 Olympia beat Atlas in the first round.
Okay.
I don't know either of those teams to know which one I'd rather see in the next round.
So what do we got? I think Olympia is from Honduras, if I made that note.
Yeah.
And then Atlas is from Mexico. Yeah, I don't know which one I'd rather face.
Don't have the intel on that.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on things, and I didn't even know when that round of 8 games will happen. Hopefully, Blake will be back by then.
Hopefully, yeah. When I looked on the CONCACAF's website, they didn't have the dates listed yet for the quarterfinal matches. So hopefully, once all the round of 16 are done playing, they'll have those dates soon. So,
other than Blake's injury, then notes from this week, I really don't have anything about stuff that's come out. I know we have some other stuff that we can talk about here, whether it's Apple TV or Ted Lasso.
Right. Yeah. Actually, before we move away from the game, I had a question. And Paul, I don't know if did you catch who the Sons of Ben's player of the game was?
Did.
Oh, who was it?
Torres.
Oh, Torres. Okay. I thought so.
Oh, speaking of the Sons of Ben,
yeah.
Just a little local tie, just because it's somebody from the school and the parish that I belong to. My kids go to the school with them, but the Sons of Ben recognize Kellen Ford, who is a childhood cancer victim who passed away recently. And Kellen has an awesome foundation that was founded in his memory by his family, and they have a motto that Kellen selected called that's by the name of "Choose Happiness." So they made mention of that on the broadcast, and the Sons of Ben had an awesome tifo of Fang with "Choose Happiness," which I thought was just, as a person that kind of knows the family sort of, it was a real nice touch, a real classy act. So it was cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was that connection. That's interesting.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't know that.
It's a sad story, but a good thing coming out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But they celebrating the locals and the kids like they have is a nice thing that the Union have done. And whenever somebody gets sick, it's nice to see them reaching out. And Blake will have some extra time to spend, if he needs to get out and visit some people. Hopefully if it's 4 weeks off, that it'll heal up quick though.
Even Curtin didn't want to get into it more than what I said, because they never like to speculate. So that was pretty much the whole report. I mean, they of course made a whole article out of it, but that was really all there was.
So we're looking at probably about 4 weeks.
Probably about 4 weeks. I mean, I think it's a bit optimistic timing. I think maybe it's safer to say at least 4 weeks, but anything else would have been quite a bit more. So it's good.
All right.
So.
Do we want to talk about the Jim Curtin Ted Lasso thing?
I mean, we can, and then now that we have this little break, if it's too much, we can cut it out.
Yeah, sure. So do you want to start with what was the actual quote? Or
basically, I don't have I can paraphrase the quote. Was that Jim Curtin was asked about Ted Lasso, and he said, Does he like the show? Sure, because basically he felt like he would sound like a curmudgeon if he said he didn't. I'm paraphrasing again, but and I think he truly, he liked it well enough. But the upshot was that he seems to like to ask and answer his own questions. Do I feel like this has set American coaching back 20 years? Yes, I do. Which I thought was interesting. And he cited Jesse Marsh, who was relatively recently let go from Leeds. I guess Jesse Marsh might have the same opinion. I know those two are friends, so they may be sort of commiserating on that point. But it was interesting because I read that and I noted it, but then I also noticed that Taylor Twellman commented on it and completely took the opposite tack and thought it was short-sighted at best. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but I kind of agreed with Taylor Twellman. I thought it was I clearly I'm no coach, not in the game, but it seems like if you can't separate the nuances of that show and the fact that it is a show from reality, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You're not really thinking very hard about the game.
First off,
I think it's true that
how can anybody dislike Ted Lasso? My goodness, that's such a fun,
right.
It's a happy show. But,
yeah,
I mean, I get his point that they kind of portray him as this sort of bumbling. At least it kind of comes across early on that he's a bumbling coach, doesn't really understand the game. But at the same point, he does make connections with all of his players. He does get the best out of all of his players,
right?
In ways that even they don't expect. So, yeah, I kind of agree with Twellman here too. If there are people in power of the higher end soccer teams that are making judgments based on Ted Lasso, they've got problems.
Right, and I see how things like that can seep into the culture and color people's views without even thinking about it, but I don't think it applies in this case. There are so many things that I could detail that we don't have time for or interest in doing, but I think it's the wrong read. But that's just my opinion. As you said, Paul, Jim Curtin is entitled to his, and Taylor Twellman is entitled to his. But I lean toward Taylor on this one.
And if anybody hasn't seen the show, I highly recommend the White Knighting dart game at the end of the first season. I think it's like the seventh episode or something like that. It's where Ted gets into a dart game against one of the villains, and there's that moment in that game that's just I will put on that episode and watch just those 5 minutes. A couple of times a year. Just it's so amazing.
What we'll do is when we post this up on YouTube, I'll put a link to the actual clip onto like wherever it is on YouTube or whatever. It's such a great scene. It's a great scene. I think trying to figure out whether or not American coaches are worth hiring based off of Ted Lasso is like deciding whether to hire physicists based off Big Bang Theory. It's kind of I'm on the Taylor Twellman side of this argument, and I don't know.
And let's be clear, I don't think Jim was saying that Ted Lasso was a bad show.
Oh, no, he made a point to say that.
I think he's just of the mind that he doesn't want that to be what people think American coaches are.
Yeah,
because that would be short shrifting so many quality American coaches, including Jesse and Jim.
Yeah.
Still love you, Jim Curtin.
And hey, Ted Lasso, Apple TV.
Yeah, it ties in
something, right?
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Apple TV real quick?
I was just going to make a joke about maybe our playback will work this time. Now that we've given them a shout out.
Can I say that I really hate that you have to hold the button down? Like I watch Apple TV a lot on our PlayStation, and in order to go down and find the other versions of it, I did find out that I can replay the game like almost immediately in the app, which is really cool, but you have to scroll way to the bottom, find that one link, and it's like you have to hold the button down until it pops up on another screen. Which version of the recap do you want to see? The 7-minute highlights or the full game in English or Spanish?
Yeah. And then
and our recap straight up, actually not even recap, replay straight up didn't work for hours. It just absolutely refused to work. I had to go. We are not an Apple household except for the Apple TV. So we actually
and an iPod Nano laying around somewhere in a drawer.
Hundreds of years old. Yeah, so we actually ended up streaming it from the Apple TV website from my phone. Yeah, it was a suboptimal experience at best. I ended up having to call tech support and get a nice man named Luther to reboot our whole app, and it was a whole thing. And he was perfectly pleasant, but it was just a frustrating.
Now, one thing I will say to Apple's TV's credit is, if you get frustrated with the Apple TV announcers and you're watching it as the game is happening, you are actually able to switch over to the local broadcast team. So I was listening to Sheenan Williams call the game against Chicago.
Nice.
Wait, that's a thing?
Yeah. So if you go into the audio settings as you're watching the game, you can change to local broadcast. Now, don't get me wrong. They're not as good as JP was with Danny Higginbottom. Yeah. But at least it's a Homer view of the game.
Oh, that's a cool option, because I mean, when it's worked, and to be fair, Apple TV kind of dropped the ball this weekend, but the previous weekends it was pretty good. I enjoyed the coverage a lot. But yeah, that was kind of one of the drawbacks with Apple TV's kind of national lineup, is that we lost all those local commentators. For good or bad, right? That one can make the argument, but it's nice having that option. So that's really cool that they still allow the local coverage or audio, at least, or commentary, if it's available. So that's good to know. Cool. All right. Well, all right, Apple TV, you pulled it back. I'll give you back 1 point.
I also did enjoy, though, the commentators this week. First time I've listened to a men's soccer game was completely both the commentators were women.
Oh yes,
yeah, that was nice.
So I'm not saying that that's the first time that's ever happened, but that's been my first experience. Usually, it's a women's team is involved if that happens. So that was really nice to hear as well. So
yeah, I didn't catch their names. I thought I recognized one of them.
Jen Hildreth and Lori Lindsay.
Yeah, I thought Lori Lindsay might have been a player either in the national team or one of the one of the women's teams that I had followed for a while. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a nice twist, and so I didn't want to switch off of it. But in all honesty, they stopped talking a lot. There was a lot of times where they just kind of went quiet, and that's okay. It's just where they wanted, and sometimes that's what I want from my announcers. But after a little while, I was like, let me just check out the other audio.
Sure. And it did seem like they might have been having some problems with the audio, because our sound kept going up and down and seemed to almost cut out. So I was wondering if there was a technical issue on their end, but not us this time. Yeah. So.
All right.
Well, should we talk about what's coming up then?
Yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah. So coming up, we've got the Union will be at Montreal this weekend. Well, I guess with our win on Saturday, we're in the top half of the table. I knew there were some teams above us that only played 2 games and they were sitting on 2 wins. Union are 2 wins and 1 loss. So we were ranked lower. So, but Montreal's in 4th place, which is second from the bottom. Montreal
14th.
Yeah.
14th place.
Yeah. Yeah. Second from the bottom. And I mean, I guess.
So they also lost 2-0 to Montreal to Miami in Miami. They lost 1-0 to Austin in Austin. They lost 2-0 to Nashville in Nashville as their 3 opening games. So I guess that was a bit of MLS trying not to put a game in a very cold weather stadium. But now they're going to have their home opener against the Union.
Hopefully the trend doesn't change for them right away. I don't know. It's a hard one to call.
I'm actually trying
it's
to
an away
find
game
out
for
who's
us,
on
so
the
it's
It is an away
it's
game for
a
us.
bit of a wild card. But at the same time, with that record, one would like to think that we would do well. Like I said before, I'm sticking with 2-1 until it happens, and then I'll change it.
Yeah, jumping into predictions for 2-1. Yeah, yeah.
I'm stubborn now.
I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna say 2-1 as well. The Union win. I think that playing at home, Montreal's going to get at least one, but I'm looking through their team. Nobody really in here really scares me as far as like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna or this group is gonna really be amazing. But yeah, I think the Union are going to get a win out of this one, but I would expect Montreal to get at least one.
Make
Yeah.
it a trifecta.
Yeah.
You want to.
Well, yeah, I will. I'm not gonna. We're gonna get the star frame here, but I don't know. I seem to remember like there was some buzz about Montreal at the beginning of the season, and the fact that they're 0-3 essentially. Well, not essentially, exactly 0-3.
0-3.
Yeah, 0-3.
No,
but yeah, and this is the
oh boy,
the
years of conditioning.
The years of conditioning kicking in. It's like, well, they're due for a win now, and it's their home opener. They're going to come out like in full force.
On the heels of a nor'easter.
And the heels of a nor'easter. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah, there is that. Although by Saturday, one hopes that's not much to speak of, but it is Montreal, so who knows?
I'm going to say, you're sticking with your 2-1.
I'm 2-1 until it happens.
Yeah.
I'm getting a T-shirt made 2-1 until it happens.
2-1 until it happens. Paul, what did you pick?
I picked 2-1 as well.
Yeah, I'm like doing the focus group analysis. Like, so what do you think? Okay. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go 2-2. I feel like Montreal's gonna.
Wow.
They're gonna. Well, I probably pick these draws just because then when the Union win, I'm like, oh, good, we won. I was wrong. Never been happy to.
So you are the karmic. You're appeasing the karmic gods here.
Yeah, I don't want to.
That's fine. You can do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
But here's the thing: like when I sit down and think about it, I'm like, I feel like we're gonna win this one. So you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just go for the full star fan. I want to say 2-1.
Right.
I'm officially going to go 2-1 for the Union. So we're all 2-1. We're all putting our poker chip on the same square here.
Way to commit.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what happens.
So we join or die, I think, right? We heard that somewhere.
Yes, we did.
We all hang together or all hang separately,
That's
right? Okay. So yeah, if you have any comments you want to throw our way, we do have a Gmail account. We are a more Philly Union at gmail.com, I believe, right? Yep.
Yes.
Obviously, if you're listening to us, our YouTube channel. We're still looking into moving into podcast streaming services. Twitter, what was our Twitter handle?
A more Philly U.
Yeah, a more Philly U on Twitter.
And Instagram, a more Philly Union.
More Philly Union. Yeah, and we not only post when our episodes go up, but we also put handy pieces of Apple TV related information. Maybe we'll do that.
How to Apple TV.
How to Apple TV.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing more Philly Union podcast. We talk about the Philly Union and tech support for Apple. But no, thanks for sticking with us for another slightly longer episode. And we'll be joining you guys next week with see what happens on the Montreal game and what other Philadelphia Union news comes our way. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Eric.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul.
See you next week.